Without any further ado, I'd like to go ahead and start our series. I'm going to introduce first Kimberly Cummings as one of our town council candidates. And Kimberly, let you unmute yourself and come to the mic, okay?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this forum this evening. I hope tonight you will hear my why I have approached specific issues on council in the manner in which I did in the past, and why I am asking for an additional 4 years to serve this great community. I hope this is an opportunity to hear my heart and my passion for the community that has so graciously welcomed me 9 years ago and allowed me to serve it in the past 4 years. 3 things that are important to me right now and in this moment. Number 1 is COVID, or the pandemic recovery. COVID was a disruptor to many of our lives. I watched via Zoom, feeling helpless, a close family member suffer as they recovered from COVID. I watched a close friend try to make sense of 1 week prior seeing a healthy, vibrant 60-year-old father on his birthday and now dead due to the disease. Some businesses struggled and a few had to close their doors. We also know of new businesses that were started at home and could grow right here in our community. The greatest hit, according to recent data, was taken by the hospitality and tourism industry. The groups of people who have been gravely impacted were those who were already vulnerable and disenfranchised. Those on the low end of the socioeconomic spectrum was hit the worst and will have the hardest time recovering. My next issue that I am passionate about is our economic development. In order to continue to thrive and to begin to rebound, we will need to continue to diversify and grow our workforce, and that happens through economic development. And my last but ever so passionate issue is social and racial equity. I plan to continue to address the gaps that exist within our community. A sustainable community of the future is significantly diverse, with smaller gaps between people of color and others as it relates to home ownership, education, and wealth attainment. My name is Kimberly Cummings, and I am building for our future for all.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you very much. We're going to move quickly on to AJ Zimmerman. I'll ask him to unmute his microphone and come to the screen to share his heart for serving as a city councilman. AJ?
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be in front of you today and speak to you today. And thank you, Connie, and for everyone for putting on this forum. First, a little about me and my family. I've lived here in Normal since February 2008. In my day job, I'm an attorney. I was a prosecutor for 4 years, and I've done a lot of work in the real estate and insurance and regulatory context. In terms of experience in the public service arena and the town of Normal, I have quite a bit. I can speak to that later, but the highlights include, like I said, lots of work with Normal, being on the Planning Commission since 2012 and chair the last 3 years. We've had several contentious topics. The Uptown Design Review Commission prior to that. In the community generally, I'm a member or a board member of the Miller Park Zoological Society and had a leadership role in leadership McLean County, I don't know, quite a while ago. Now, backing up 20 to 30 years, a little bit about me and who I am. I grew up in a very blue collar family. My grandfather and his 5 sons had cattle ranches. I grew up on a working cattle ranch in the middle of nowhere, Nevada. We had thousands of head of cattle and we were busy and we worked very hard. Knowing that about me, this is what I can offer you. A fresh new style of leadership. Now, what does that mean? It means that I will listen, not to point out how you're wrong or give you my opinion, but really to truly listen and understand your position. Learn, again, understand your position, absorb all the information you might want to pass on, and then leave. Use that knowledge with the other knowledge that I've gained from other life experiences, conversations, and seek the most fair result. Now, the reason I'm seeking office, many talk about infrastructure, economic development. One person mentioned a leaky fire hydrant. Now, these are important issues, but before we get there, the primary reason I am seeking office is because I really, like I said, I want to bring people together and avoid the divisiveness that is everywhere in politics, from the federal level all the way down. As I said, have meaningful conversations and avoid the short, biting social media posts or offhanded comments. My hope is that we can learn from one another and then lead after doing the work to understand different perspectives. Another thing that I would like you to know about me is that I'm a person who does. I don't simply sit on the sideline and observe or complain. By way of example, I will throughout the election day, November 3rd, 2020. I understood turnout would be huge. I also knew that many seniors generally serve as election judges, and on this day, many seniors would choose not to serve due to fear of being exposed to COVID-19. So what did I do? My son and I stepped up and served as election judges. Like I said, we did. From 5 to 9, we served as election judges, which is one of the most meaningful civic experiences I've done in a long time. And, and if you have the opportunity, it's coming right around the corner. I'd recommend you also experience it. I welcome this discussion now. I welcome your support now and up and through Election Day and beyond. And I welcome and ask for your vote on April 6th or before. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. We're going to move on now to Stephen Harsh. Stephen, if you would be, you were the third number in our order. I'm going to remind people listening to go to the QA section on your screen. That's where you can type in a question, and we will deal with those as soon as as soon as our candidates have spoken. So, Stephen, if you opened your mic, come and share.
Okay. All right. I was born and raised in Bloomington Normal. Went to school here at Trinity High School. Upon graduation, attended the University of Missouri, came back to Bloomington Normal. Since then, I have been an owner and operator of 2 separate retail businesses, a real estate office, and for the last 30 years, a financial services office. One of the retail businesses that I was an owner and operator of was Budget Liquors for its first 12 years of existence. And of course, one of the reasons for selling the store at the time was because Normal decided that they needed a special liquor tax. That was, like what I tried to explain to people then, the beginning of many separate individual taxes on top of taxes. If they could do that so easy, they wouldn't stop there. That has since happened besides a special liquor tax, we've had a special motel hotel tax on top of the regular sales taxes. We've also had a special food and beverage tax, and more recently, a special gas tax. And then another gas tax on top of the special gas tax to take care of the roads and the infrastructure, which are deteriorating all over the place. And the current administration that's there now has participated in all of this. They don't seem to find taxes that they dislike. There needs to be 3 qualities for anyone to be successful in business and life: responsibility, accountability, and credibility. You have to be responsible to meet your financial obligations, to meet your mortgage, your rent, all that, and you have to be responsible to your family. You have to be accountable for when problems come up, to have a solution to fix those problems. Your credibility is everything. It's very simple. If people can trust you and believe you, they're going to support your efforts. I have 3 main reasons for running, and the first one is the unnecessary, out of control, misdirected spending that is going on in Normal today. And it's actually gone on over the last 20 years. Number 2 is the ever increasing taxes, fees, and regulations that just strangle and choke families and businesses and make it undesirable for them to locate here. Number 3 is the infrastructure that is just crumbling before us. We actually, there's on the gasoline taxes, for example, we have a small part of that that is actually going to take care of the roads that they said they needed that for. We have some roads that are that are barricaded closed right now in town because they are impassable. We have water conditions where people are using brown water that the town tells them is safe, but they won't drink it. They've had to buy their water. This has gone on for over 2 years, and that problem hasn't been addressed. But the water bills have continued to increase. Sidewalks, roads, water, sewer is going to be the next problem. We have certain neighborhoods too that have severe drainage problems that have been developing over the years that they can't seem to get any kind of response from to get fixed. That is going to be a real problem in the near future. What it boils down to is, who can you trust to make the necessary changes or do what's necessary to get these things under control and to quit the spending on all of the vanity projects that they seem to prioritize? Like giving millions of dollars to businesses to come in and compete with other like-minded businesses, build new bike trails, build new buildings that we can't get fully occupied. So anyhow, and of course, all with taxpayer money. There's a big change that people need to make if they want any of this to change. So that is why I'm here.
All right. Thank you, Steve, very much. We're going to move on to our number 4 spot, which Carl Thiele. Carl, would you please open your mic and share in a short message, share your vision for serving on the city council?
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Carl Thiele, and I'm a normal guy. I grew up on the west side, kind of near Oakdale School. I came up through Unit 5 all the way up through normal community. My kids are all either in or graduated from Unit 5 as well. I've taken classes at Heartland and classes at ISU as well. So other than a few years after college in the Chicago area, I've lived here since I was 3. So I'm very much a normal guy. Why am I running? Basically, there's only 2 issues. Since Mayor Coos and his friends on the council, so current incumbents, past council members, and some of the non-incumbents who are aligned with Coos, as Steve was saying, they put in a new gas tax. They doubled that gas tax. They've increased water rates, more than doubled. They've raised property tax over and over again. They've siphoned money off from our schools using TIF districts. And even with all that, our roads are no better, and many would say they're worse. As Steve was saying, there are some people who have undrinkable tap water, and we have potential flooding issues. I ran the numbers, and Mayor Coos and his friends on the council have shorted the fire and police pensions about $35 million over the course of his tenure. And so where's all the money going? Again, it's going to ego projects. So right now we're paying about $3 million a year in interest. If we didn't have the ego projects that our kids and grandkids will pay for, because some of it's interest only, we could double our road repaving budget, probably hire a couple of police. I know when I've been out campaigning, I've seen a lot of signs that say, UPS, knock really hard. I don't want, porch pirates taking my stuff anymore. So we could focus more on primary services and less on interest and less on these ego projects. Meanwhile, the town council works for the mayor. It doesn't work for the people. Over 5,000 people signed a petition saying, don't remove the Uptown mural, and they were largely ignored. The town's been cited 3 times in the last 4 years for preventing people from talking at town council meetings, because basically the mayor doesn't want to hear from them and the council backs him up. So we need council members that will want to hear from the people. And if the mayor says he doesn't, council members who will have the fortitude to say, I'm sorry, that's illegal, or we need to change the policy or whatever. So basically I want to represent all the people of Normal, not just the mayor's friends. And I want to do it with no tax increases. I would like to say tax cuts, but given that they've run up our pension debt and our bond debt, I can't promise tax cuts, but at least I will work for fewer increases.
Okay, thank you, Carl, very much. We're going to move on now to Scott Preston, who has the number 5 spot. And Scott, please come to the mic, share your thoughts about serving on the council.
Thank you, Connie. Well, thank you for hosting us this evening. Thanks to the party and to all those, not only the other candidates who are on here, but all the attendees who are watching as well. It's great to be back with you guys again. As many people know, I am the vice chair for Normal of the County Republican Party, and I'm honored to be part of this forum. So thanks for putting it on. My name is Scott Preston. I was born and raised in this community. I grew up in Normal. I graduated from Normal West High School and Illinois State. And it was after I graduated from ISU that I began serving as the assistant to our state treasurer here in Illinois. Following that experience, I started up a small real estate investment company. And it's through those combined experiences that I really gained, I feel, a deep understanding of the importance of cultivating an environment where our local innovators and our local entrepreneurs and our local small businesses can thrive, where private economic activity can thrive, and making sure that government does not get in the way of that, but creates policies that are efficient and effective in providing an avenue for those job creators to continue to grow. I think that we are at a point now in Normal where economic growth is my number one priority, and I think probably the number one issue that we'll be looking at as a community coming out of this pandemic and into a post-COVID world, and also seeing some of the changes in our local economy from major employers, both pro and con, and being an environment and being a community where we focus on economic growth, on jobs, and helping the private sector is something that's a focus of mine. And my experience, I think, has hopefully lent me a good perspective to bring to that conversation. I'm honored to have the support of the Chamber of Commerce PAC, the Realtors, State Representative Dan Brady, and State Senator Jason Barrickman. And I say that because they have all, in their own way, been there pushing for the private sector and promoting good government. And I'm honored to have their trust and confidence as well. So I would ask for anybody watching, of course, ask for your vote on or before April 6th, and great to be with you.
Thank you, Scott. And then our number 6 spot, we have Brad Mcmillan. Brad, please come to the mic and share your thoughts.
Thanks. Thanks, Connie. And thanks again for hosting tonight's forum. I think this is the first one where we've actually had all the candidates together. So welcome to everybody. I actually respect anybody that's willing to throw their hat into the political ring. It takes a lot of work. We're about 2 weeks away. So best wishes to everyone. When I was a senior at Illinois Wesleyan many, many years ago, I went to Washington, D.C. And interned for House Republican leader Bob Michael. I then went to work for him for a year on his staff. Then I went to law school. I practiced law in Central Illinois for 10 years. Then I went and became district chief of staff to former Congressman Ray LaHood, and we represented the western portion of McLean County and spent a lot of time in the Bloomington Normal area. For the last 11 years, I fought hard for good government ethics, fair maps, redistricting reform. I'm a professor at Bradley University that teaches leadership studies to both undergraduate and graduate students. My priorities, if elected to the council, and I know a lot of people think this is just a good thing to say, but I do think we need to focus more attention on needed infrastructure. But at the same time, I think we need to be very proactive in economic growth and development, because it's the resources from the economic development that are going to help pay for the needed infrastructure in the community. I support local businesses. I too am endorsed by the Chamber Political Action Committee, Dan Brady, and a lot of friendly business folks in town. I do believe in fiscal responsibility. I do believe that this is the People's Town Council. It's the taxpayer dollars. We have a responsibility to be thoughtful and very serious. And my view of public service is to be accessible, responsive, and to listen to all the people in the community. So I would greatly appreciate your support on or before April 6th. Thanks a lot, Connie.
All right, thank you, Brad. Thank you very much. We're moving on to our next to the last spot. Number 7 is held by David Blumenshine. So David, would you please come to the mic and share your thoughts?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Connie, and thank you, everyone. Like Brad said, it's so critical that we take local government as serious as we can. It is the foundation of how we grow communities. And I'm so happy to be part of this community. I've been part of this community since 1982. My family moved here from Peoria. I attended Illinois State University. After graduating, I dabbled as an entrepreneur with different companies. Then I found myself in real estate. I've been in real estate here in the community for 27 years. Just recently, as I got involved politically at the state level, I took a position with Unit 5, working in their transportation with the Vocational Transitional Assistance Program. And I thought I'd be there just for maybe a year, and it turned out I'm still there. So I love being able to drive to and from, covering from the north of Normal to the south of Bloomington, east and west. I do see what is happening in our community, and especially being a resident of the Bloomington Normal area for so many years, I've watched what has transpired. And so with my platform, it's pretty simple. I believe that the first thing that government should stay out of is wanting to be everything. Government isn't the solution. That's the chasm that exists. Let's let the free market. And with that, government shouldn't be in debt. We should pay off the debt of Uptown Normal. That's first and foremost. We need to get a handle on fixing these roads. I drive a Unit 5 vehicle. I'm pretty certain I can tell you almost every pothole with College Avenue, Vernon. And it's almost like you feel like you're part of Mario Kart driving around and trying to avoid the potholes. Then I think that it's also important that we're good stewards of the people's money. Taxpayers, I know you're listening, you want us to be fiscally responsible. We shouldn't, like your household, we shouldn't spend more money than we're bringing in. Then I think that we need to stop taxing. We have been on this tax increase. It's not only gas tax, it's every tax we can think of: real estate, garbage, sewer. It doesn't stop. I think Steve alluded to that. And then finally, I think my platform is going to speak loudest when we allow the people of Normal to step before that mic at the beginning of council meetings with public comment. No matter what the item they want to share, I think that is part of being a good council person, is listening to the voice of people, because normal people matter. Hey, I appreciate, once again, being able to speak to all of you. And please get out and vote. Early voting has started. You can vote between now and April 6th.
Okay, David, thank you very much. Last but certainly not least, we're going to come to Kevin. Kevin, would you come to the Kevin McCarthy? Open your mic and be able to share your thoughts, please.
Yeah. First, before I get started, thank you, Connie, and the McLean County Republican Party for hosting this forum tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to come and get to share, as I couldn't last time from a conflicting schedule. Good luck to everybody out here. As mentioned already, just stepping up is is hard work to put yourself out there and take a risk. So I appreciate all of your efforts, and thanks for being here tonight. To get started, being on the campaign trail is a weird time where I get 2 to 4 minutes to talk to you about stuff, but I'd much rather listen to what you have to say. So I'm going to say a bunch of stuff in a hurry tonight. If something resonates with you and you'd like to talk to me more, please reach out at mccarthyforcouncil@gmail.com. I'd love to talk to you more about issues that are important to you. I guess to start, I've spent 29 years of my life in the community. I'm a 2-time graduate at Illinois State University. I'm married to a Unified teacher who's also a 2-time graduate at Illinois State University. Actually, she's a teacher that Mr. Blumenstein actually drives a bus for one of her students, actually. So I'm running for re-election because I love Normal. I love living here. I think it's a great community. And I enjoy representing the citizens of Normal in their local government. If I get the honor of being re-elected, my focus will be on financial resiliency, high quality core services and infrastructure, and economic development. Now, the past year or so, as we all know, has been a very challenging period for the town of Normal, the state, the nation, everyone. And our town is facing a triple threat of state of Illinois economic instability, very divisive politics, and a global pandemic. And I believe Normal citizens deserve experienced collaborative leaders with a proven track record of success. As a successful small business owner for 29 years, I bring a pragmatic, forward-looking, results-oriented focus to council. And I've used that focus to manage funds responsibly while strategically continuing to invest in our future. Now, in the past weeks, I've been talking to so many residents of the town of Normal and listen to how they feel. So I'm gonna take a little tack and talk about what I've heard at the doors and what residents tell me they want and they appreciate about their town. I've heard stories about how people love the trail and our parks, and particularly how they've used them for mental and physical well-being during the lockdown. I've had the chance to talk to young graduates of Illinois State University that have chosen to stay here because they love our community, because of the opportunities. I've talked to some new young professionals that have moved here from other states and other communities because of those opportunities and because they think our community is a wonderful little place to set down roots. So many residents tell us and tell me how much they appreciate the core services in the town of Normal and how we have not had to cut them over the years like other communities have. And so many residents are excited and want to talk about Rivian and the growth and the hundreds of millions of investment and the many, many opportunities that they've created. Normal is the envy of communities across our state, and not to mention nationwide, as they watch stories like Rivian unfold here in Normal. I don't think you're going to find a comparable community in downstate or in Illinois that's having the growth and the investment and the successes we are in Normal, especially during a pandemic. Now, we've heard a lot of doom and gloom tonight, but it's being reported that our county is one of 6 counties in the entire state that is actually adding population, growing actually, of the 104 counties. And people are moving here because they want to be here. And I couldn't agree more. Some of the in this race don't agree, but I encourage you to listen tonight out there for concrete examples of other communities in our area that are comparable to Normal, that are having the growth and huge private investment and job growth that we are. I'll be excited to hear those examples. Before buying into the doom and gloom that I've been hearing, please look around other communities that are comparable to ours, certainly in the state of Illinois, and see what's going on for yourself. We're doing very, very well. Many people in and outside of our community see it, and I'm proud of what we're doing. But we are not done yet. The pandemic and remote work has created an opportunity for our community uniquely. Young professionals now know that they can work from anywhere, and they are less and less interested in paying high rent in big cities to be crowded. They're looking for a new normal, and we have a chance to welcome them home with high quality services, low cost of living, and enough space to actually see a horizon. And I'm excited to continue to work on efforts like this in my next term. We've heard a little bit of misinformation on some issues that voters really care about. So I'm looking forward to spending some time tonight getting clear on some of the facts. Thanks again for having me. It would mean a lot to me to have your vote on or before April 6th. Thank you. I think you're on mute, Connie.
I'm on mute. I'm on mute. I did it to myself. We're going to move into a question and answer period. If those of you that are attending and listening in, have a question for any of the candidates, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or it may be on the side of your screen, at the top of your screen, but there is a Q&A button that you can click and be able to type in a question. We're going to be screening through questions and trying. Some of them I've already, as we've been looking at them, there's some duplications, people asking some of the similar kind of things. So we're going to do our best to try to merge them into a general question that we then can let all the candidates address. One of the questions that seems to be coming up repeatedly is in regards to the use of tax rebates. We just heard comments from Kevin about the Rivian. The general questions that are coming out are asking what you as a normal councilman would see as the best use of tax rebates, and maybe give give a good example, or if you think there's some bad examples of using the use of tax rebates, and what the guiding principles would be in your mind about the use of tax rebates in helping businesses move forward. Let me go back, and we're going to start back with Kimberly, if you're up for taking that question. We haven't heard from you in a while now, so let me back up and we'll start with you. If you would, please.
Sure. So as it relates to tax rebates, you have to always be wise about them. You want to look at what is going to be the return on investment, and not every situation actually yields a tax rebate. And I think sometimes that gets missed. We get a lot of requests, but not every request has been honored. Are there situations that have happened in probably other communities where they have not wisely taken a look at that? Sure, but we also put measurements in place for success. You don't get or receive that rebate or incentive without certain criteria being met. So in that way, we ensure ourselves that we are doing this in a wise and very how can I say, conservative way, no pun intended. So I think that those are the things we have to consider when we are going to put a tax rebate into place. And unlike how some people put it, not everybody gets one. There's a lot of places that or businesses that ask, but it has to make sense for the town and it has to yield an ROI.
Okay. Very good. Let's, I guess I'm going to ask the candidates, maybe the way that we do this well is there's a little raise hand button, since there's so many of you guys. I don't want to catch you off guard. If you're not ready for Kimberly, bless your heart, good for you. I threw it at you and you did it. But I'm going to, moving forward, I'll just, when I phrase these questions, I'll ask the candidates to push their little raise hand button, and then let me call on you to kind of give an answer to, again, right now we're talking about what your view and what principles you would use to make use of tax rebates, whether what has already happened or what's moving forward. Give us your thoughts on that issue. Do I have anybody got a raised hand there? I see Scott does. Scott, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Connie. Yeah, I'll be happy to chime in on this. So a couple thoughts. One, there's been some conversation in the community in recent months about a standardized focus across municipalities, both Normal, Bloomington, or smaller communities around McLean County, in the county itself, to look at an economic incentive standardized proposal that all local bodies within McLean County would agree to up front, that could be used in a but-for situation for job retention or more likely job attraction here. And so what that means is that, if a company wants to come to McLean County and they the numbers just don't work without some kind of assistance, there's at least a standard set that if this company will bring X number of new jobs at X average rate of pay, and it does not just pull away from our existing businesses, that they would then qualify for X incentive, in one way or another. And one of the things that I like about that, I will say that the devil is in the details, right, as to how that ends up coming together, of course. But one of the good things about a approach like that is it removes the subjectivity of any local government, choosing yes to provide this incentive here or no to provide it there, and the picking winners and losers. That subjectivity is gone. It also eliminates any competition, in a negative sense, competition back and forth strictly between Bloomington and Normal, or the county and the like, and offers a more regional, county, Bloomington and Normal approach to growing jobs and creating economic opportunity here. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. I believe, Brad, you had your hand up next, so please give it.
Yeah, I was just going to say pretty much what Scott just said. I agree with the Bloomington Normal Economic Development Council approach to trying to come up with standard criteria for incentives. And Kimberly said the right thing as well, in the sense that it's the return on investment that's important. Because if you look at, for example, the jobs that Rivian is creating, the economic growth that is causing in Normal is enormous. And so, again, you have to be thoughtful, you have to be wise. It has to be a smart move, but I do like the idea of taking out the subjectivity and making it more standard, like Scott talked about.
Okay, thank you. I believe Kevin was the next hand up that went in this question time. So Kevin, your thoughts on the tax rebates?
I'll try not to just say ditto, but I have a similar perspective to some of the comments already made, but I think it's important whenever we talk about incentives, we have to work to ensure that they benefit everyone in our community. And so a project has to be able to generate economic benefit and opportunity over the long term to create that return on investment that Brad and Kimberly talked about. Yes, I think the standardized incentive program that we laid at the feet of Patrick Hoban over at the Economic Development Council is a good tool. It provides known and clear rules, and they're available to everybody. Takes some of the ambiguity and subjectivity out of that, and I think that's a good thing. But I also know that one size doesn't fit all. If we're talking about building and manufacturing specific type incentives, that doesn't help small projects where they're not building a new building, but needs help. I do think that there has to be a clear and demonstrated benefit to the community and as widely as possible. I'll use the Rivian as a project as a good example. The 5-year agreement just expired, or is expiring. And it was a performance-based program where they added jobs, they invested money, they got a break. They didn't create jobs, they didn't invest money, they didn't get an incentive. And I think that's the best way to go about it.
Okay, good. I think Carl was the next hand up. So Carl, your turn.
Thank you, Connie. I can't help but notice all the incumbents and the political insiders spout, oh, we need to see ROI, oh, we need to take subjectivity out of it, and so on, along with their claims of, oh, we need to listen to the people, and oh, we need to be fiscally responsible. These are all great words, but if they were following through on these things, I wouldn't have ran 2 years ago, and I wouldn't be running again now. They basically follow what the mayor says, and the mayor keeps raising taxes and gives incentives to too many businesses that compete with existing businesses like restaurants and bars. And basically we're competing with Bloomington. We don't need to compete with Bloomington. We need to compete with Indiana and South Dakota and bring in businesses. Now, Rivian is a good example. Hopefully that'll be a big economic engine, but we need to be much more judicious. And, why haven't they been judicious up till now? Because they basically do what they're told. And we need somebody who will go in and have the fortitude to say, yes, we do need that ROI, not just say it during campaign season. Thank you.
All right, Carl, let me move on to AJ, I believe had his hand up next. AJ?
Yeah, thank you. The example that Kevin spoke of, I think speaks to what he was talking about in terms of meeting ROI, meeting a certain criteria and getting some incentive, and not meeting it and not. So I appreciate your comment, Carl, but I think that riveting example says the opposite. And sort of to play devil's advocate here, I do believe that some sort of standardization is warranted. But I think we need to be careful. Kevin mentioned that it's facts and circumstances. You're talking about retail versus some sort of industrial. And I think when you talk about taking out subjectivity and ambiguity, you need to juxtapose that with the potential creativity that comes with it. I think that the town of Normal staff is very good at what they do, and to the extent that they can harness that creativity, I'm all for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. I believe Stephen, sir?
Yes, everything sounds great when they're campaigning, running for office, and the people that are supported by the administration, that have their support are running too. They're going to be in lockstep with them. It'd be wonderful if it worked how they said that it does, and how they're going to make it work. Only that doesn't happen to be the case. When we give these incentives, first of all, on the TIF districts that it was originally supposed to be for blighted areas, land that just was absolutely not developed, and to be able to make something out of that. Downtown Normal isn't a blighted area, nor was the area out where Rivian is. However, every time we do a TIF, which Normal is fond of doing, that takes away dollars from education, from Unit 5, for example. And then, of course, they have to raise taxes on their end to meet up for the shortfall on the real estate taxes that they're not going to be getting for another 23 years. And every time they do that, that's another 23 years for that money that's not coming in for education for our kids. If Normal was the tremendous community that everybody wants to come to, we're fortunate to be having some growth here in spite of ourselves. But if we had a tax structure to begin with that was a model for the rest of the state and the Midwest, as opposed to having some of the highest sales taxes and real estate taxes in the country, we would have people automatically wanting to come here because of our location and what all we have to offer, for businesses to locate here. We wouldn't have to give away the ranch to get them. When we do give incentives, then, because as Scott mentioned earlier, because maybe it doesn't quite work for them without the incentives. Well, then when the incentives run out, then what happens? Then what are we supposed to do?
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I think last we have David Blumenschein.
Yeah, I'll make it quick, Connie. Incentivizing growth gets back to what I said, this chasm of a progressive approach versus a free market approach. It's all well and good. We all want Rivian to succeed and roll hundreds of thousands of vehicles off of the assembly line. Just like Brent, another great program that was put together. I wasn't fully behind taking advantage of our school system in order to incentivize these people, because at the end of the day, like Steve mentioned, then what? Then what? We have got to become so fiscally responsible. And Kevin's right. We are a shining star in Illinois. But we're talking about Illinois. That's not doom and gloom, Kevin. That's reality. If we want to be that one community that shows the rest of the state of Illinois how we can go that direction to lead this state out of the fiscal irresponsibility they have created over the last 20 years, then we have to show that we can pay our own bills. We have to show that we're not going to continue to tax those people that rely upon us, that are here. We want to keep them here. We've got to be fiscally responsible with the money they give us. And that includes incentives. Yes, there's a whole big discussion around that. I don't think we're going to get solved tonight, but I know one thing: we've got to get our own house in order. And we're not here to be a business. We're here to represent the people of Normal, to provide safety, public services, parks and rec, all wonderful things. We got to do better at it. And we got to make sure that we're not driving on roads that remind me of being on my mission trips in Haiti.
Okay, thank you, David. I'm going to ask to make sure you put your hands back down on the raise the hand feature, so that when I know this next question that's going to come up. One of the questions that was asked involved with asking to give an example of what you think the Normal Town Council had as a successful project, looking back. Something you could name as what you viewed as a success, an example of what you think where government was working like it should for a project or a initiative. And then also to identify what you think in your mind is going to be the next project that you would want to see happen in the city of Normal, and how that, I say the term project, it can be interpreted as many things, but something that you've thought that worked well, was a good idea and succeeded in the past, and something you think that the city of Normal needs to accomplish in the future, keeping it as maybe as specific as you can. All right. Do I have a hand going up for someone who would like to tackle that question? Oh, not so many hands yet here, guys. Anybody want to talk about something that they think that was a success in the past, and then something to look forward to? David, please.
You know, I don't think it's one specific thing. Once again, when you've been in this community since 1982, you have watched two communities do very well together. I also am a firm believer that a successful Normal and an unsuccessful Bloomington does not bode well for either city or McLean County. We can't leave Bloomington behind, nor can Bloomington leave Normal behind. We have collectively worked together. Look at the companies that we share. People work between Division Street. Someone said at a recent forum I was at, most people, especially those people who are going to go to the polls, don't really analyze where they don't specifically say, I'm going to go into Normal or I'm not going to go into Normal. They view this as the Twin Cities. I think that is our strength. That's one thing that we have done very well for a long time until recently. For some reason, I think Steve had mentioned it, we suddenly believe that our competitor is Bloomington. Bloomington isn't our competitor. We are our competitor. Until we learn to manage our own fiscal house, we would have so many things in front of us if we were debt-free. We would be able to build that town that everybody truly wants to be part of. You know, Normal people are looking at us and they want to see how they matter.
Okay, thank you, David. Anyone looking for any raised hands on that issue? Scott, go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Connie. One thing that we did in Normal just recently in the last couple months that I think was in a lot of ways a very good initiative was our small business grant program. That money that came from the federal government to the town of Normal, we were able to utilize $450,000 and use that specifically to help 50 small local independent businesses here in Normal who've been struggling because of the pandemic. And no question, our small businesses have been taking quite a hit, especially probably no more so than restaurants, arguably this last year with all the COVID restrictions, and being able to offer that kind of relief up to $1,500 for those small businesses is something that I think is important for us to do, and I think in a lot of cases really made a good difference. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? We'll move on to another question here. I am wondering, one of the questions that came out, I'm actually thinking, oh, okay, I'm just double checking. I still have everybody. Sometimes with this technical wonder, people have technical challenges. Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin, you had your hand up. I'm glad I double checked. Did you want to talk about an issue of the past and something of the future?
Sure, thanks, Connie. I know I'm always failing to lower my hand in council meetings, so I have my Zoom challenges too. There's so many successes that we could talk about in Normal, right? Recently earning another AAA that we've had for over 10 years about financial management. We collaborate well. It's right. I disagree, and I don't know where all of this we're at odds with the town of Normal or with the city of Bloomington is about. We have over 200 intergovernmental agreements with the city of Bloomington, and we do a lot together. And does that mean we're ever going to have some disagreements? Sure, we're two separate governing bodies, two separate communities, but we do a lot together. But Scott mentioned one as a small business owner myself. I was very proud of what we did on the small business loan through the DCO program, and we were able to help. We had some very, very appreciative businesses on that. In the future, I mentioned in my opening that welcoming and attracting young people for our future, for a vital and resilient Normal, I think is really important. And speaking of collaboration, recently with Alderman Jamie Matthey from Bloomington, I co-created the Bloomington Normal Innovation Alliance. It's a smart cities initiative focusing on technological innovation and government systems. It's bringing together the city of Bloomington, Illinois State University, Illinois Wesleyan University, and Heartland Community College to also look at those opportunities in higher education and how we work collaboratively to be more efficient and effective and accessible as a government and as a community, and be ready for those young people who want to live and work here, but need to be connected to the digital economy of the future, because that's where the jobs growth are. We're seeing it in forward-focused manufacturing like Rivian. And to be able to enable those young people to be here but work anywhere, that type of collaboration, that type of effort has got to be where we spend some of our focus.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. All right, we're dealing with the question of something you can identify in the past that was a success in your mind for the Normal City Council, and then something you want to see happen in the future to represent your view of what needs to happen with the City Council. I think Steve had his hand up next, so please, Steve. You gotta unmute your mic.
Sorry about that.
Nobody's keeping count, Steve. We don't have hash marks going on, so go ahead.
All right, sorry about that. I'd just like to mention that our basically our AAA tax rating or our AAA credit rating is mostly because we haven't run out of people to tax yet. Is about what it amounts to. As long as we still have more people left to tax, we can still spend more money. The town of Normal, I think when things were going better, when years ago, more than 20 years ago, we were debt-free, operating that way and letting the free enterprise system work, and taxes were much lower. Since then, the real estate taxes have more than doubled if you haven't had the senior freeze on your taxes. Water bills have increased over 400%. Infrastructure has just crumbled before our eyes with huge problems coming up with water and sewer, in addition to the roads. The thing that we need to know is, where is all this money going that's supposed to be going for those purposes? And if we had lower taxes like we did then, if we maintained our infrastructure with the money we're supposed to be doing it, if we contributed to the pension programs of fire and police, they were 75% funded back then. They're less than 50% funded now. But we have to have answers. Where is this money going for us to be able to use for the purposes that government is supposed to provide, for the things that government's supposed to provide?
Okay, thank you, Steve. All right, we're going to go to, I think AJ was had his hand up next. AJ?
Yep, thank you. A couple comments, and I'll get to my examples. Number one, with all this talk of Bloomington, had I popped into this thing, listening to the commenter talk about Bloomington, I would think that this was a Bloomington City Council thing. We, so we're clear, have an obligation to look what is in the best interest of Normal, okay? That doesn't mean that we are going to get aggressive with Bloomington, but first and foremost, we should be looking to what is in the best interest of the town and its citizens. Mr. Harsh just made a comment about community tax rate, and I think it's important to voice your concern, but also to have data to support that. I went back and there was a presentation back in September by town staff, and they detailed the community tax rate for the 7 largest downstate south of I-80 towns or cities, and Normal was the 3rd lowest. Bloomington was the lowest, followed by Springfield and Normal. Champaign was higher, Peoria, Galesburg, Urbana, Decatur, all higher. So when we talk about these things, we need facts to go with what we're saying. And if we're just going to say things to incite a crowd, that is a problem. So going forward, I would hope that we can use facts when we're talking. In terms of examples, and this may not be popular with certain people, and I get that, but I really do think it's important to look to Uptown in 2005. It contributed $54,550 in property tax revenue. 54,000, okay? Last year, it was 2.5 million. Think about what that does to this community's solvency, to Normal's solvency, and what that does to lessen the burden on homeowners. That's what we should focus on. And in terms of looking forward, several people have brought up the small business loan program. I think that's fantastic. What I also think is these small businesses are the businesses that were harmed the most. You have the Amazons of the world and the Walmarts of the world that are logistics companies that don't need to have that friendly touch. There are small businesses out there. The reason you go to them is because they know you. They know what you like. They know who you are. They're in your community. And those are the people, because of what has gone on, that it's made, I mean, and for the right reasons, but those are the people that need the support, and those are the people we need to be looking for and looking to help.
Okay. Thank you, AJ. Carl, you had your hand up, and then we'll let Kimberly do the last one. Carl, please.
Almost forgot to unmute there. One thing I like, I don't know that it's really a council accomplishment, but there's been a lot of talk about how Normal's falling down on basic services. I really like our parks. That's one basic service that, you know, the council has not siphoned money away from, and they're in good shape, and I like our parks. So as far as the next big project, we need to try and get a reputation for being business friendly. People talk about businesses being hard hit, you know, and like government needs to be the solution. Well, you know, if government's the doctor that's supposed to cure things, first do no harm. Normal has been much stricter with lockdowns than I think they needed to. We needed to try and open things up as much as possible, as soon as possible. Obviously, you have to be worried somewhat about the virus, but you have to be worried about this unintended consequences of lockdowns as well. Just need to encourage free enterprise, because free enterprise is always more efficient than government enterprise. We need to stop picking winners and losers, stop making insider deals, and just kind of make business friendly for everyone.
Okay, thank you, Carl. And Kimberly, please come to the mic.
Thank you. Let me make sure I take my hand down. I'm just as bad as others with the hand
Yes, guys,
raising down.
put your hand down, guys. We're going to move on to another question after Kimberly.
I think I'm going to come at this from slightly different than some have. When I think of what the town of Normal has done well, and when you say projects, they, when I moved here, it was the big push to be a place that you could live, work, and play. And that whole idea and them bringing that to fruition, as well as, they began to work in different areas of the community so that this could be a reality, I think is very successful. And it is very attractive. I know I hear that from a lot of students. I have spoken, to students and their families, and when they come to visit, and why they go to ISU and why they stay past ISU is the fact that we continue to grow and do well in the space of this being a live, work, and play community. As what to see in the future, I'm going to use this word, and I'll use it as it's been used, as me and others in our consortium have lobbied amongst our national colleagues, I should say, or, our US representatives and senators. When we say infrastructure, we mean more than just roadways and waterways. And I think that's something that we'll continue to grow in. And what I mean by that is, yes, those are included, but our workforce development, I think we can, as we continue to diversify, when we talk about economic development, that's a space we grow in. Housing and ensuring equitably diverse housing for all, as well as transportation, which is not just roadways and it's not just public transit, but allowing any means of transportation from one location to another within a community. Is going to be important. And I think Kevin hit on this a little bit when he talked about smart cities. It's talking about the digital infrastructure and our constant growth, and what we're going to do and how we're going to capture data, how we're going to use data, and how will data drive us as a community in the future. And actually, data is a great currency. As many, if you read up on it, data is going to be a great currency in the future. And I think it's going to be incumbent upon us to be on the horizon of that as well.
Okay, thank you, Kimberly. We're going to have time maybe for one more question. I had originally told the candidates that I thought we'd spend about an hour in the whole thing, and now we're already past that. So I'm hoping with forbearance you all are willing, but I think we've got some great questions coming in. I will tell all the candidates that I will be emailing you these questions, and you will have an ability to respond back to the ones that we don't get to tonight. So those of you that have been asking questions know that these questions will be sent to the candidates with your contact information, and they can respond because we're not getting to all of them tonight, unfortunately. But there was one particular question that I thought dealt with a little bit different issue than what we've been talking about and worth visiting. And that was with the question about the fire and police pensions. Mentioned briefly about the fact that back in the 80s, there were basically fully funded. And now we've reached the point of having, I believe it was mentioned, that's like about 50% now funded. And the questionnaire wants to have the candidates respond to how they would deal with this issue moving forward and how it needs to be addressed through the budget. So I will ask for a show of hands from the candidates if you have are ready to address that issue, and you all don't show on my screen at the same time, so I have to kind of keep scrolling back and forth. How would you deal with, or what do you see as a, and maybe you don't see a concern, maybe you're ready to say that's not concerning, but the questionnaire has a question, why have we moved from 100% funding in the 80s to now only 50% funding of the pensions for our firemen and police, and how do we address that? How do we work through that? I don't know if anybody's got a show of hand answer for that. No one's won. That's a big one. Okay, David, you raised your hand, sir. So go ahead, take a shot.
All right, let me get myself unmuted. Now I've got my audio off. There we go. Start my audio back up. Push the wrong thing. I'm working off the phone. You know, Connie, this issue of pension is something that, like so many other things like debt, people would rather just not talk about. And I'm not going to tell you I have a solution of bringing that thing back to 100% funded. I think we also have a problem at all levels of government with pension programs. And it seems like the response is the same thing. We kind of want to move towards those things that are the vanity projects, or those things that look better, look nicer. And eventually we're going to have to come back to the same spot. Are we going to be able to recover from the debt load that we've created? Are we going to be able to live within our means? Are we going to do that without having to increase taxes, real estate, garbage? Are we going to be able to truly address the pension crisis that exists? Because 50% funded, yeah, it gets us through, most of the people on this Zoom call tonight, it gets us through 20 years. But how about our children? How about our grandchildren? What will we leave behind for them? We already know that the development that we currently have incurred, the debt that we currently have, is going to take 22 years to pay off. That's too long. Not being fiscally responsible to those people that put it on the front lines every day, I think that's despicable. We've got to stop ourselves and really look at what government was meant to do. Provide for public services like fire and police, roads, parks and rec, water. And if we don't address it, where are we going to be?
Okay, thank you. I see some hands coming up now. AJ, would you care to speak on the pension issue?
Briefly, I mean, in terms of solutions, that was not a solution. What we're talking about here, he conflates debt with pensions, and that is a problem. Pensions are a function of how the economy is doing. It's a function of the interest rate environment. When the interest rates are low, you need to contribute a lot more to make up the difference. Unfortunately for us, we've been in a historically low interest rate environment since the early 2000s or the mid 2000s. Therefore, the contributions keep ticking up and up and up, which means we need to contribute more. So in terms of solutions, I mean, if the interest rate environment would somehow pick up, that would solve a lot of things. But I don't foresee it happening in the short term. And to pivot back to this question of debt, it's always nice to go talk about there's so much debt and it's going to take forever to pay off. But when you actually understand how school districts, and I spoke with a school district administrator when I was out walking this weekend, who said that people simply don't understand that that's how projects have to get done. That's how they get funded. So when we talk about debt, when you talk about refinancing, or what do they call it? The term for is refunding. For refunding these bonds is 1.8% or 1.9%. Go spin around in your office and go find your mortgage and go look what that interest rate number is. Is it 1.8 or 1.9%? I don't think so. And I say that because the town is doing, in terms of finding the right time to refinance, and refinancing generally lower than inflation, which is historically around 3%. You're refinancing for less than inflation, which is pretty remarkable. And that is why you have AAA ratings from Fitch and Moody's and things like that. Not because you buy it, not because you tax more people. I mean, we really need to focus on facts here. It's really great to go talk about debt and in a context of throw out a big number, when what you really need to be doing is looking at the nature of that debt. Is that debt at 6% or 8%? If that's the case, that's a problem. If the debt is at 1.8%, that is much less of a problem.
Thank you,
Thank you.
AJ. I see Brad's held his hand. Brad, and then Kimberly will be next.
Yeah, the pension issue is a huge financial future burden on the town of Normal. I do give the council credit this year for shifting more money to the fire and police pension obligation. Representative Ryan Spain, who I'm very close to, successfully passed legislation in Springfield to consolidate downstate pensions, which will help at least a little bit with the financial burden. We need to work, and it's difficult, but we need to work with our state legislators to try to extend out they're saying that we have to have pensions 90% funded by 2040. We need some flexibility on that. So, that's part of the leadership of the town is trying to advocate for relief when it comes to the pension fund obligations. But we do need to fulfill our promises to the police and fire department. But it's going to be a huge piece of the financial picture moving forward in the town of Normal.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Kimberly?
Thank you. I think people don't realize this is something that's a topic of conversation for us as a council, having been on the council for a while, as well as it's not just our community and it's not just really the state of Illinois who has these questions about especially fire and police pensions. One of the issues, and I can't speak at overall what every detail was the issue and why the shift from the 80s to now, but certainly the mortality table has made an impact on it. And that has also played into what we're seeing today and why it's so much more and what we're paying and what needs to be funded for the pensions, or how they determine what should be funded for pensions. And so, we do have to continue to be very diligent about how we plan to address this. Brad mentioned a couple things that I am also aware of that are on the table that we have to be advocates for at the state level, to certainly see pushing out the date for 90%. I know the town, we work diligently to fund at least at 90%. At one point we were looking more towards 100%, but to make some adjustments and to ensure that residents didn't feel some pinches and some tax raises, and to level off some tax levies, we allow for 90% looking, within certain years. And so there is this constant thing of that's always before us, and it is the elephant in the room in a sense at this current time. But I think, having people who are continuously mindful of that will help, and continuously working with our state legislators to ensure that we can fully fund this very soon, as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you, Kimberly. Steve, you want to speak to the pension issue?
Yes, I do.
You're gonna have to. We're getting low on time, so
Okay.
keep it.
All right.
Keep it
All
succinct
right.
for me, okay?
All right, I think it's pretty simple. What it amounts to is we should go back and check when it was fully funded, when it was 100% funded, is what percentage of the budget was going to the pension at that time. What happened over time and why we have the shortfall that we do is because Normal quit paying into the pension. They were using that money for other areas. Well, since it was so easy to get away from that, they've never gotten back to fully funding the pensions. And I might add too that my facts for Mr. Zimmerman on the real estate taxes came from the tax assessor's office. And I checked the rates 20 years ago versus what they are now, the multiplier increases, the automatic increases for for growth. And I haven't run into anyone yet either that I've talked with that has lived in the same house for 20 years where their real estate taxes have not more than doubled.
Thank you, sir. All right, Carl, excuse me, Carl. I've been trying to combine a couple of names there at the same time. Carl, would
That's
you,
okay.
you
It's
wanna
not the
speak to
first
that,
time that's
please?
happened. Anyway, AJ was complaining that David didn't really have a solution. So far, everybody said, "Oh, this is a terrible problem," but David is the only one who's proposed anything close to a solution. We need to cut down on the ego projects and get more back to basics, and that's the only way that this can be addressed. Although that, I think, is the second step. The first step is we need to get political insiders out, because they're the ones who've gotten us into this mess. We need people that can come in with a fresh perspective without the political insider baggage and cut back on ego projects and get back to basics.
Okay, thank you, Carl. And I think our last candidate to speak to this issue is going to be Kevin. Kevin?
Thank you. So I think if I remember correctly, the question was why. Why is a very long answer. We're talking market rate returns, investment policies of each specific pension fund, market rate assumptions, funding dates, and a whole bunch more variables that 60 seconds doesn't even come close to being able to address. But to clear the air and provide some facts to this context here is that at least I can't speak to what happened 20 years ago. I wasn't on the council. But in the nearly 9 years I've been on the council has voted to fund what the actuaries have told us to fund every single year. Level set, no diversion, no non-payment of regardless of what has been spread out there. Every single year, the council that I've been a part of has voted to fund the pensions at what the actuaries have told us to fund. Revenue is what people seem to want to talk about when we talk about pensions. Where's the money going to come from? That's very, very important, and we've been working on that side. But what fewer people seem to be willing to talk about is that the Illinois General Assembly makes the rules for what the pensions are, and then they simply hand us the bill and say, you figure out how to pay for it. And it doesn't matter how good we are with revenue and how smart we are and fiscally responsible we are. If we keep getting handed a bigger and bigger bill, we're never going to make progress on that. I'm not bashing anybody. Consolidation, I agree. Brad mentioned that is a very good step. It improves the market rate returns that I was talking about, one of the variabilities. But we also got to, watch out because, there was a little bit of a pension enhancement happened at that same time with the tier 2 pensions, which are going to increase some of the costs down the road a little bit too. So we've got to be able to watch that. I agree. I think Kimberly talked about working with our Illinois General Assembly. Our local reps get it. Dan gets it. Our local folks get it. Jason Berkman gets it. But we need help on the broader scale in the Illinois General Assembly because we need to manage both the cost of it and the revenue side of it.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, sir. All right, I'm going to move us into a final wrap up and ask each of the candidates to take a minute and share whatever thoughts they haven't had a chance to share yet, but to keep it to a minute because I would love to get us out here before too much longer than an hour and a half. So if we'll start, as I said, we're going to do kind of the reverse. So those that were last at the beginning shall be first now. So Kevin, you actually were the last person to speak in our opener. So take it away for a closing comment.
Thanks again, everybody, for listening tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks again to everybody for stepping up. Again, this is hard ask to be willing to step up and expose yourself. So I respect everybody for doing that. So at the outset, I talked about how good we are compared to everybody around us. and that I don't know of a comparable community that's doing any better. And I ask everybody to listen carefully for specific examples of communities that are doing it better. AJ gave us a comparison, actually, one comparison that showed how good we were doing. I didn't hear one concrete comparison to any community that's doing any better. That's because Normal is doing very, very well. I've been knocking on doors, talking to hundreds of, probably over 1,000 people already. And I've heard that they like the direction that Normal is going and they want us to keep going. And I get it. And I understand that. Right now, I think the choice is facing us really is focusing on progress and investing in the future, or on austerity and going in reverse. To me, it's very, very clear choice. Given the opportunity, I'm going to keep working on these issues very hard. Again, if reelected, I'm going to focus on financial resiliency, high quality core services and infrastructure, economic development. But I can't do it without your support of those that are watching. I need you to take action. I need you to get to the polls. Local elections are where your voice matters the most. And it would mean a lot to me to have your vote on or before April 6th. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kevin. We now go to David Blumenschein.
Well, thank you, Connie, for putting this on. And like Kevin said, I do appreciate everyone that steps forward in a candidacy because of the effort that goes into it. Kevin is right. We are a town in Illinois that is leading the way, and we can do so much better. Experience has led us to where we're currently at. The debt we have, the conditions of the roads, spending money on things that we really can't afford. I'm not saying that those aren't nice things. They are. We all enjoy uptown Normal. I don't know who lives in Normal that doesn't enjoy uptown Normal or walking on the trails. But the thing is, when we say that experience is the only way, that takes away from the voice of the people of Normal. I'm here tonight to represent you. One of my platform issues is putting public comment first at town council meetings. It's critical. We need to hear from more people and involve more people, as Kevin said. I'd like to build a bench too of a lot of young people. I'd like to keep our children and our grandchildren here for generations to come. I don't want them exiting Normal someday. I need you. We have the opportunity to vote today, tomorrow, and next week looks pretty good too. And by April 6th, though, no later than that.
Thank you, David. Our next candidate, we go to Brad.
Thanks,
Brad.
Connie. Thanks, Connie, and good to be a part of this forum tonight. You know, I am truly an independent candidate for town council. My campaign team is made up of young professionals that used to be former leadership students of mine at Bradley University. They're not insiders. They're young professional people that want to see Normal grow and prosper. And I firmly believe that several of them are going to be future leaders of our community, which I'm greatly excited about. I do believe that you can support both economic growth and development and needed infrastructure at the same time, that those two things go together. They're not inconsistent with each other. You know, I would greatly appreciate you checking my background out at Brad for Normal on my Facebook page, and would greatly appreciate your vote on or before April 6th. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Brad. I'm going to do a quick little plug because I know some people kind of drop off maybe quickly at the end, or reminding everyone that we have several Zoom events this week. Tomorrow with the Bloomington Alderman, and then on Thursday we'll have Bloomington Mayor race, and then next Tuesday we have the Unit 5 and District 87 school board candidates. So all of these Zoom events, including the one tonight, once they are completed, they will be posted on our website. But all of the links to those Zoom events upcoming are also on our homepage at McLeanCountyRepublicans.org. So there's my 2-second plug. We're going to move on now for final comments. Scott Preston is next in line.
Thanks, Connie, and certainly looking forward to the other forums that the party will be hosting that you just mentioned. And thanks for hosting this one for all of us tonight. So I'm glad to hear, and I wish we had more time to talk about this issue specifically. I'm glad to hear other members of this panel talk about young professionals. That has long been an opportunity that could be capitalized on better in this community. I am fortunate when I was first elected in 2013, I was elected as the youngest council member in Normal's history, and I was 25 at that point. And I was walking around and talking with people in this community. I'm from here, and you realize, there are a lot of people who talk about, man, this is a great place to raise a family. And it's a great place to grow up. It's a great place to be in our schools when you're young, in our colleges and universities here. But there is a gap in between for young professionals that there are too many that we have brought to this community, educated here. They take the skills and the knowledge and become productive members of their community and their society, and take that skills and education elsewhere after they graduate, rather than planting roots here in this community. I can put countless names and stories of friends of mine and friends of my wife Allie's who we know who that's been the case with. And that is always an opportunity that we should be focusing on. I'm glad to hear others talk about that this evening. That's something that's very personal to me, no doubt. We live in definitely an in spite of community. The town of Normal has a lot of great things going. We are, as has been alluded by others too, we are the best downstate community in Illinois, in spite of the fact that we are in the state of Illinois. And being able to harness our unique assets to grow jobs and innovation while maintaining a great quality of life and protecting people's tax dollars to run an efficient and effective local government is something that is crucially important, and I hope to continue to fight that fight and be a voice as part of the conversation. Thanks to the other candidates who are doing this, who are putting themselves out there, and thanks to everybody who's watching. I'm Scott Preston, and I am asking for everybody's vote on or before April 6th. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on to Carl in our number 4 spot. Carl?
Almost forgot to unmute. Again, thank you, and thank all the other candidates. I know it's a lot of hard work. There's been talk about young professionals and so on, and yes, we do have a lot of young professionals. We have ISU as a good source and so on, but they're not stupid. They see that our taxes are going up and up and up and up, and they look for greener pastures elsewhere. As Scott says, they leave. Why do they want to stay when, unless they're a political insider, they don't get any input into government? And again, taxes keep going up, and a lot of it goes for ego projects as opposed to the basic services. No, we don't necessarily have to cut back to nothing. It's not austerity. It's just cutting back to reasonable things and what we can afford. Government isn't always the answer. A year ago, a lot of people went out and tried to buy 300 rolls of toilet paper because of the impending virus. What did I do? I went out and bought $300 worth of gift certificates from various local businesses. Government isn't the only solution. We need to try and learn how to harvest private investors. In this case, myself. I'm sure $300 didn't save anybody, but if enough people had done that, we wouldn't be having the issues we are today. We need new solutions. We need new blood. Vote for new people. Vote for me, Carl Sela, on or before April 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. And next in line is Stephen Harsh, please.
Thank you, Connie. I appreciate you putting this on. Coming up on Tuesday, April the 6th, the voters of this community have some big decisions to make. If you're happy with it, if you're just ecstatic on how things are running in Normal, and you love all of the spending that the town of Normal seems to be doing, you love the ever increasing taxes and fees and regulations, and you love the crumbling infrastructure, you like all of that being put off, losing a car on some roads, then you need to keep the incumbents and their endorsed candidates that they have running, as well as the current mayor. Otherwise, if you're looking for a change, and you think things could improve greatly, there needs to be more accountability on the spending. The money should be going where it's actually intended to go, and people accountable for their actions. Then we need a house cleaning. We need a change. And I might add too that I am the only candidate that lives west of Main Street. That's where considerable problems are for water and drainage, and roads too, for that matter. So anyhow, I can't impress enough how important it is that you exercise your right to vote on April the 6th, and that nothing is going to change until you do something different. Otherwise, you keep the same results. Thank you.
Okay, AJ Zimmerman, please. Your turn. Unmute your mic. AJ, there you go.
Yep. All right. I, like Brad, see myself as being very independent, very sort of centrist here. I'm not getting $5,000 checks from individuals who have interests in normal. I mean, that could help for a lot of marketing, but that's not me. It is listen, learn, lead is what I'm about. I will listen. I will understand where you're coming from. Hopefully learn as much as I can, and then take steps forward. Many people have asked, what separates you from someone else? And I resisted, because I tell them, I want you to vote for me, okay? I want you to look at and understand what I'm about and vote for me. But we're getting close. And so I guess what I'll say is, we all make mistakes. Brad, his flock of seagulls haircut back in the 80s, that was a mistake. Carl with the rat tail in the 90s, also a mistake. Kevin, those parachute pants did not work for you. But the point is, I will admit my mistakes. I will admit my mistakes. If I have a lapse in judgment, I won't hide from public view. I won't refuse to talk to people and act like nothing has happened. I was raised to be stronger. I was raised to be more ethical and better than that. What I promise you is I will be transparent. I'll work hard. I'll try and learn as much as I can. And above everything else, I will put the town of Normal first. That does not mean that there is some sort of issue with Bloomington, but we have a fiduciary responsibility to put the town of Normal first. As such, I ask for your vote on or before April 6th. AJ Zimmerman, thank you.
Thank you, AJ. We go now to Kimberly. Please come to the mic.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to be here, as well as good luck to all of the other candidates who are on the ballot. For me, I am very passionate about this community. And what sometimes strikes me as odd is if, some of what I hear about this community, if it was true, I wouldn't be here, nor would I be running for office, because some of the things would actually scare me to want to be here. But I've made a choice to be here and to invest in being here, and basically have put my life and restarted my life here in this community. And, my hope is to get more people to come and to say, this is a place you would want to be, and that it is welcoming, and that it has the things that you're looking for at this season of your life or this juncture of your life. And so, with this passion, I run, and I've ran 4 years ago, and I'm running again. And I'm hoping to continue to be a voice to move us forward, and to continue for us to grow and become greater than where we are today, because there's always room for improvement. And I think we tend to learn and grow and become better from that. And so, yes, I'm here asking for your vote, but I'm asking for you to vote for our future, for us to continue to grow, and for us to continue to do and be better and greater.
Thank you. I am truly grateful that all of you were willing to come on today. And I will say that it is true that those of you that are willing to put your hats into this ring of the crazy political world in an effort to try to serve your community, you are all to be commended, truly commended. We all should be grateful that there are those of us among us that are willing to step up and serve, as all of you have expressed that desire to do. So thank you very much. I am going to be sending the email to you with the questions that have been not addressed tonight, so that you can hopefully address to the attendees and answer their questions directly. I am also encouraging people to please go to our website, McLeanCountyRepublicans.org. You can see an election page, as well as the homepage has all of the Zoom links for the upcoming events. But it's now a time to close to the evening. I thank you for your time tonight. Well wishes for everyone. Take care. Good night.